If I would have told you what the differences were, would you have been able to identify that?
I wouldn't have.
No, I would have gone to the drawing,
Most people don't go to the
or the
drawing anymore.
specification document.
Most parts are not even inspected anymore when they come in. Doug, it's a different world out there.
Boy, no
It's a
kidding.
different world. When I first started in this business, I used to write test programs, and every component that came in the door, I wrote a test program for it, or somebody else wrote a test program for it. And we tested everything electrically before it came in the door, and it was inspected at least at a sample rate. That does not happen anymore.
My
Is it just
God.
a label on the package, on the box, or whatever?
Yeah, most times what they do is people look at it and they verify that part number. If that part number is what's on the purchase order and it's on that part, right, Gary? That's what they look at. Unless they have different inspection criteria.
And how often does that happen?
Not too often. I think it's going to change. I think it's going to change because some issues that I'm going to bring up a little later, things that our Congress is going to help us with. But yet, the counterfeiters are taking the advantage of the DOD's effort to commercialize. Back when like I said, back when I first started in this business, I had a test program for every part that we bought. I started this business in a components engineering lab, and we used to take stuff like this apart. One of my first tasks as an engineer was destructive physical analysis, and that was to take these things apart and make sure they were built the way the manufacturer said they were supposed to be. We don't do that anymore. We can't afford that. That was expensive. That's when you got the $250 hammer that you can buy at Walmart for $8 because of all the inspections that had to go on that hammer before it could go out. So they started to get away from that to get prices down and save money. Did it work? Yeah, it saved money, but now you spend it other places. You know, I mean, this is the whole thing behind this is they've changed, and it's like everything else. There are people out there, now not all what I call brokers, which are non-authorized distributors, not all of them are crooks. Just like all politicians aren't crooks. Oh, wait a minute, that's not a good example. I'm sorry.
It's pretty close.
I'll have to think of a new example, I'm sorry.
All lawyers.
No, that won't work either. Yeah. So I don't know. Not all insurance. No, that's. Anyhow, so it is a small segment of the business. I worked with a guy on one of the counterfeit part investigations that we just did at Honeywell, and he is Honeywell's counterfeit parts guru. He used to be, well, he's engineer by degree, and he used to be in the electronic parts broker business. The reason he's not in the electronic parts broker business is a lot of reasons why a lot of people aren't in politics. Ethics got the best of him. He couldn't compete with those people that were willing to take shortcuts. So they were killing him, so he got out of the business. And now he consults, or was consulting with Honeywell, and I think he's going to become a permanent employee at Aerospace Headquarters. Counterfeit part examples. This is a good one. X-ray shows the lead frame of a device. Normally, I would say 99.99% of the time, when a manufacturer builds a part, they're always going to use the same lead frame. And it's always going to have the same pattern. Never within a part type will you, or very seldom, within a part type for the same vendor will you see two different lead frames. Speaking of lawyers, I was on a telecom one time on the first counterfeit part I worked on, and we were explaining to them with pictures, and we were showing that this one counterfeit part had two different dye in it. In other words, the markings were different So they were 2 different dies, 4 different package types. And one of the corporate lawyers asked me, well, what makes you think that's a counterfeit part? And I said, well, maybe it's the fact that nobody ever does that, because what that means is they're retooling every time they change a package. They got to change their programming, their bonding programs, their diet, everything's got to change. So that says they're changing their tooling every time they change that part. That's not going to happen in a lot. They like to build hundreds of thousands of those things at one time, and they don't change.
Now, aren't you even doing any kind of sampling inspection for a lot, or that they might notice that there was
Not
a
right now.
similarity?
Not right now. And I'm going to get into a little bit later on what's going on in the industry and what they're trying to do to combat this. I'm just right now trying to show some examples of how we go about identifying the counterfeit parts and how difficult it is. It's not easy. It's not an easy task to do. And
On that right side, what are those leads that are not terminated connecting to?
well, actually, they are terminated, Doug. It's just that if you really look here, you can see there is about a less than a 1 mil gold wire
Yeah.
going from here to here.
Oh,
And it depends. This is a bad X-ray. I've seen X-rays. The guy in my failure analysis lab can X-ray this thing, so you'll see all the wires and everything. But that is their bond wires
okay.
that go from the lead frame. This is the lead frame of the package, and then this is the die, and then on the die here around the
That
perimeter.
isn't really illustrating the path of the current then?
No, it's just to show the
Okay.
how the lead frame is set up, how the packaging is set up. Because the die bonding really doesn't give you anything about counterfeit parts. This shows how it's increased over the years. This is 1976, 80. This is around the time, a little bit past when I started into the business. And you get up here, you don't see a whole lot
I
of
think it really jumped about the time I retired.
yeah, right in here. Right in here when you started doing all that commercialization and stuff is when it hit. A little bit more. Again in 2008. More statistics. And again, this is our biggest problem. Buying from brokers and buying from independent distributors. You get to authorized distributors, it starts going down from there. And you buy from OCMs, it gets even better. The issue you have is, and I've seen this many times at Honeywell, the customer will come in and they'll ask us for a quote, and we'll quote 18 weeks. So they take the quote, they come back, they give us a purchase order, they give us 6-week delivery. And of course, we don't want to anger the customer, so we take the 6-week delivery and then we try to meet it. What happens is you start going to these people. Because when you go out there and say, hey, I need this part, I only need 20 of them, and I need them in 3 weeks.